Hello viewers, so welcome to my channel today. Today we are going to learn how to draft a princess dart dress. You can have your princess dart on your blouse too, but today we are going to learn how to draft it on a dress. Thank you so much to all my subscribers. I'm saying a big thank you to all of you for always commenting, sharing and liking my videos. So let's begin right away. So as you can see, I've drafted out the vertical lines we are going to be making use of. The shoulder line, the bust line, the under bust, the waist line, and then the hip line. So right away, I'm going to map out our armhole measurement. So in doing that, I'll come to the shoulder line. I'll mark out my neck width. The standard actually for a gown is 3 inches wide, 3 inches deep, but this time around I'm going to make use of 5 inches width and 3 inches depth. So I'm going to mark out the 5 inches on the shoulder line. I'm going to go ahead so this is my neck box. Now I'm going to mark out 8 inches, which is the standard, on the shoulder line. And after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is sorry, I'm trying to adjust this there. Because it's a dress, the table usually is not enough for that. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do now is on this line, which is our reference line, I'm going to mark out my shoulder measurement. That is 14 inches divided by 2, that is 7. So I'm going to mark out 7 inches. This 7 inches on the shoulder line. I'm going to go ahead and come down by 1 inch under the 7 inches in order to get my shoulder slope. So I'm going to go ahead and connect it to the neckline. So these are shoulder slope or shoulder slants. And then we are going to determine next our chest wall. And your chest wall is just your armhole length, your armhole depth, so to say, which is your shoulder length divided by 2, which is 7. I'm going to go ahead and go down by 1 inch, 7 inches from the slant. And this is our shoulder, the length. So I'm going to extend it. And with this, we have our chest line. I'm also going to draw a straight line to meet it. So with this, we have our chest line. So this is our new line, chest line. All right, so I'm going to go ahead now and find the middle of our shoulder. Let's get our armhole. And in getting your armhole, you find the middle of your arm depth. This is 7 inches. So the middle is going to be giving us 3.5. Then I'm going to go ahead and impute the circumference, my breast circumference, on the chest line. This will be a guide for me to prevent overextension of the armhole measurement. So the circumference I'm working it is 35 inches. I mean the breast circumference divided by 4. 35 inches divided by 4, I got 8.775. So I'm going to go ahead and measure it on the chest line, and that is where I'm going to connect with the middle point in order for us to get our armhole measurements. This is it, 8.75. So I'm going to go ahead and connect this point to this point. You can use your French curve if you have, but then I've always told you it's also good to learn how not to use all those instruments, so that in case you don't find them handy, you can just do a free sketch. You're just going to connect it with a curve. But before doing that, remember that the armhole of the front is deeper. So I'm going to go ahead and come in by 1 inch. I'm going to come in by 1 inch, and then connect these 3 points, 1, 2, and 3, with a curve. Connected here. I'm going to go ahead, and that's it. With that, we have our armhole. Having done this, we are going to move on. Remember, we are talking about how to draft out your princess dart on a dress. So we are going to go ahead. I'll come to my underbust, to my waistline. Now on my waistline, I'm going to determine my bust span. That is your nipple to nipple measurements. Your bust span divided by 2 is what we are going to place from this point inwards. That is going to help us in determining the dart, where to place the princess dart we are talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and mark out my bust span. My bust span is 8 divided by 2 is 4. I'm going to add an extra 0.5 inch for sewing allowance. So I'm going to go ahead and mark out my bust span or nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2, all the way from the hip line up to the breast line. The waistline, on the hip line, on the underbust, I'm going to go ahead and connect with a straight line. Just being careful. Alright. So the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead on the waistline. Remember, we are trying to impute the princess dart. On the waistline, we start with the normal way. In this video, I already taught you how to mark out your normal dart. That is the normal dart on a dress. So that's the pattern we are starting with. So we come to the waist. That's where you impute your dart. So on the waist, I'm going to go ahead and mark ½ inch on both sides. Half an inch on both sides. Half an inch on both sides. This is half. Move it up to the underbust, ½ an inch on both sides. And then on the bust line, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. from the bust line. Mark it here. So I'm going to first of all let me draft out that on both sides. Draw a line to connect these 2 points. That is half an inch this side, half an inch this side. Draw a line to connect the 2 points. So I'm going to go ahead, so this is half an inch on both. So I'm going to go ahead and connect these 2 points to this 1 inch I marked below the bust line. See how simple and beautiful it's already becoming. So I'm going to go ahead on the hip line. I'm going to come up by 2 inches. On the hip line, I'm going to go up by 2 inches and connect it to the dart from the waist line. I'm going to go ahead, connect this point to this point. Just trying to be careful. Good. Connect this point to the two inches. Beautiful. So with this we have our dart here. We've imputed our dart normally on a dress. So the next thing we are going to do now is we're going to come to the armhole. I'm going to measure the armhole circumference around the armhole and then find the midpoint. Resist the temptation to think that the middle point is the point of this straight line we used while trying to get our armhole. You've got to measure this curve to ensure that you know the calculation you are working with. Let me take it again. So this is 8.75. So I'm just going to fold it in the middle, and wherever we have the crease on the tape happens to be the middle of our armhole circumference, armhole depth rather. I'm going to fold it in. So I'm going to place exactly what I have. Calling out all those tiny measurements on the tip can be more of a task. So just fold and get your middle point. So these are middle points. These are middle points. So I'm going to go ahead . So the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to connect this middle point to this point, you can make use of your curve, but assuming you don't have it, it's so simple. Just draw a straight line from there. A curve is actually meant to be a curve. From there, and here you go. The next thing we are going to do is I'm going to come down still from that point. From this point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. So come down by 1 inch from the midpoint of your armhole curve. And I'm going to connect it also to this point on the bust line. Still with my freehand sketching. Good. So you don't have all these instruments, you don't need to bother, just be careful while you move your hands. So the next thing I'm going to do now is, and I'm going to go ahead, come up here. Mind you, this is the second one. Come up here. When at the place I came down by 1 inch from the middle of the armhole curve, I'm going to extend it by 1 inch, because by the time we start cutting, there will be a shortage from our measurement. So we'll need to have enough to sew in the bustier. So you go up by 1 inch from there, and then you mark. So I'm just going to extend it. So with this now, we have a new hole extension. So these are new armhole extension. Still at the same point the other one stopped. Alright, with this we are done. Oh, just like that, we are done. The only thing I'll need to do now is, you see this straight line? Remember, this is a dress, not a blouse. So I'm going to extend this straight line down to the full length of this short gown. That's all. And after doing that, we're now going to go ahead and impute our normal measurements, our waist circumference, breast circumference, hip circumference, and the rest of that. So this is what we have. It's so simple, right? I'm going to go ahead and try it out. That's one way of ensuring that what you've practiced, or what you've studied, or what you've learned has come to stay. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and impute our measurements. So on the bust line, I'm going to impute my... So but before I impute the basic measurements, I'm going to impute those ones I've already removed, because we are going to cut out this and cut out here. So starting from the chest line, I'm going to measure the distance between here and here, and whatever I get here, I add it here, because we are going to cut this out. So to prevent it from shortening, I'm going to measure exactly what I have and place it here. And then connect it to my new armhole. Okay. So we are going to go ahead now to impute the body measurements. That is your normal body circumference and all that. So on the breast line, I'm going to impute my bust circumference divided by 4. And that will give me 8.75. So I'm going to go ahead, 8.75 on the bust line. And then on the under bust line, the under bust circumference divided by 4. 7.25. Now you need to know that this 1 inch is going to be cut off. That is this. So as a result of that, I'm going to measure exactly what I have here and ensure that I replace it. Don't assume it's 1 inch. Just measure. By the time you draw your line, it's likely to be more than 1 inch. So just measure exactly what you have. That is what you are going to place. You replace it. Same goes for your waistline. On the waistline, you impute your measurement first. That is your circumference divided by 4. Whatever it gives you, you add. And then you measure this space, the distance from here to here, that you're going to cut off. And whatever you get, you add it to it. Don't fail to do this to prevent your material from shortening, because you're going to cut away certain parts. And then again, on the hip line, you impute your measurement. Divided, your hip line divided, your hip circumference divided by 4. That's what you are going to impute. And now when you are done doing this, you are going to go around again to impute half an inch, because by the time you'll be joining, by the time we cut this out, while joining, you will need extra material to be able to join. So you're going to go round again and add between ½ inch to 1 inch, depending on how much you can manage the material. So I'm going to go around and add ½ inches to both sides. And remember, on the chest line, because we extended the armhole curve, I also extended, because see, we are going to cut out here. So I measured the distance from here to this point and added it extra. That is why it's like there are 2 points. This is the first one, this is the second one, this is now the new one we have. So you're going to go ahead and add ½ inch or 1 inch on all the sides for adding your centerpiece to your side piece. The centerpiece is this, and this is what we are going to cut off. Go around, add an extra 1 inch. Then the last thing you're going to put now is your sewing allowance. You can first of all decide to join your lines before adding your sewing allowance. I'm going to go ahead and join the line. I'm going to explain it again. I explained it in my previous video. This is going to be a straight cut gown. So, assuming it were to be a pencil gown, what you are going to go ahead to do is to measure out the distance from the distance you have, whatever you have on your hip line. You subtract from 1 inch to 2 inches from it, and then you place it at the hem line. But this is a straight cut gown, so there will be no need for that. I'm now going to go ahead and add an extra 2 inches for my side seam allowance and the sewing allowance. When we are done with that, we'll draft the back pattern. Let's go ahead, connect the new lines I have. So this is what we have. So I'm going to draft out the back pattern first before cutting this out. So I'm going to go ahead now and just cut it out from this pattern material, but I'm not going to separate the center piece from the side piece. And then, as you can see, this line is damaged. What happened was that I forgot to add the extra 1 inch I'll use to join the center piece to the middle piece before joining the points. So I remembered it, and that's why this line had to be cancelled. This is a new line, and then this is the allowance, the line for the allowance. So let me trace it out from this one. And as you can see, on the shoulder line, I added an extra 1 inch for joining. If you do not join this 1 inch, the material will shorten by the time you join your shoulders. So let me cut it out right away. Fold our back pattern. And as you can see, we have just basically 3 lines. There's another line we are going to have, that is a chest line, but we're yet to impute that, and we'll do that later. This is the shoulder line, this is the waist line, this is the hip line. There is no bust line and under bust at the back. So you are seeing the major differences between the front pattern and the back pattern. Another thing is, this is the zip allowance, 1.5 inches. You can make yours 2, you can make yours 1. So this is the zip allowance, and these are the lines needed here. So these are part of the differences between the front pattern and the back pattern. So let's begin right away in drafting out the back pattern. So you are going to determine your shoulder length. The standard is actually 8 inches, but the shoulder length I'm working with is 7 inches. That is 14 inches divided by 2. That's going to give 7 inches. And then the neck width I'm working with is 5 inches. So measure it out, 5 inches. So this is 5 inches, 7 inches are standard. So under the 7 inches, I'm going to come down by half an inch to determine our shoulder slope or shoulder slant, half an inch at the back. While at the front, we made use of 1 inch. So I'm going to connect this half an inch to this line, to the 5 inches. That is the neck width. So from this shoulder slope, I'm going to go down by 7 inches. This 7 inches, of course, is the armhole depth I'm working with for now. So I'm going to come down by 7 inches from the shoulder slant. I'm going to come down by 7 inches. And then from this shoulder slant, I'm going to extend it to this point and extend it to this point. With that, we have our chest line. I usually like doing the slants before mapping out the chest line. So this is our chest line. So this being done now, I'm going to go ahead. The measurements I'm working with for my bust circumference divided by 4, I'm going to impute it here to enable me find out the extension of the armhole curve, because that's what we're about doing. We're about carving out our armhole curve. So it's your bust circumference divided into 4. So you are going to have measurement I'm using. I'm going to have 8.75. I'm going to go ahead and find out the midpoint of this armhole depth, which is 3.5. And this is the back pattern, so I'm not going to come in like I went in by 0.5 inches on the front pattern. So I'm just going to go ahead and connect this point to this point using a curve. Like I told you, you can make use of your French curve, or if you don't have, you can also make use of your freehand sketching. So that's being done now. I'm going to go ahead, impute my bust span again. Remember our bust span? I'm going to impute it on the hip line, the waist line, and the chest line. The bust points divided by 2, whatever you have, you add 0.5 inches to it. Your bust span rather, or nipple to nipple measurement, is the distance between the two nipples or between the two busts. So whatever you have, you divide into 2. So I'm going to connect the 3 lines. That being done, I'm going to go ahead, just like we did on the front pattern. I'm going to come to the waistline, mark out ½ inches on both sides. On the chest line, so I'm going to come down by 1 inch from the chest line, 1 inch from the chest line. Then I'm going to connect this points, this half point, this half an inch on both sides on the waistline. I'm going to connect them to these points, just like I did on the front pattern. Good. And that's been done. I'm going to come to the hip line. I'm going to come up by 2 inches from the hip line. And of course, that's the standard when trying to impute your dart on a dress. 2 inches above the hip line, 1 inch from the bust line. But you know there's no bust line behind, so we are making use of the chest line. So I'm going to also go ahead and connect it just like I connected this one to the chest line. Connect it to these 2 points. That being said, we have that. So on the armhole cuff, I'm going to measure it. I'm going to go ahead and measure the armhole cuff, and whatever I have, I'll find the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and fold it to determine the middle. So wherever I have the crease on the tape is actually the middle. That being done, so from this midpoint, I'm going to come down by half an inch. And from this half an inch, I'm going to connect it to where that leg meets the chest line. That is the 1 inch I came down from. And that's been done. I'm going to go ahead and extend. That's 0.5 inch I came down with. I'm going to cut it out later. So in order to prevent shortage, I'm going to add that 0.5 inch. And we are going to have extend it a little, and we are going to have a new armhole curve. That's been done. I'm going to connect it. It's good to train yourself to use your freehand sketching, but if you have your French curve, it's fine, like I said. So I'm going to go ahead now and impute our body measurements. So starting from the chest line, I'm going to add, or rather I'll do it later. Let me finish with the body measurements. The waist circumference divided by 4. Waist circumference divided by 4. And then I'm going to go ahead and measure the distance from here to here. Measure it. At times, what you end up having is different. So make sure you measure it to prevent shortage of material. I'll come to the hip line. Circumference divided by 4. Now, having done this, I'll come back and add 1 inch. This 1 inch will be the allowance for joining the center piece and the side piece. I'm going to add it on the chest line, the waist line, and the hip line. So please, if you are here to subscribe to my channel, try and do so for more interesting videos. Ask your questions in the comment section. Please share this video, like and comment. Having done this, I'm also going to go around and add my 2 inches sewing allowance or seam allowance. Then remember, on your shoulder, remember to add extra allowance for joining. So I'm going to go up by 1 inch on the shoulder slope. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to teach you like, I'm going to take it down. Remember, it's a princess that's bustier on a dress. So I'm going to take it down and then bring my measurement down as well. Remember, it's a straight cut gown, not a pencil gown. So that's been done. I'm going to go ahead and now add my side seam, 2 inches. And for So to prevent zip bulge, I'm going to come to the waistline. Remember, this is the zip allowance. I'm going to come in by 1/2 inch from here. I'm going to come in by 1/2 inch on the waistline. Let me extend the waistline, please. So I'm going to come in by 1/2 inch. I'm going to connect it to this 1/2 inch. I'm going to connect it to the hip line up downwards and to the chest line upwards. Upwards, and then the hip line downwards. So to avoid this shortage for on the zip allowance, I'm going to measure 1.5 inch from that 1/2 inch I came out with. I'm going to connect it again to and then again to the towards the hip line. And to ensure that the measurement on the waist too, it doesn't shorten, I'll still go in on the waistline inch I took away and connect it. Take it down towards the hip line. So that's the beauty of having your side seam allowance. So with this we are done, and the shaded parts are going to be cut off. allowance. So we're going to go ahead and cut out our pattern. This is the front pattern. So that part is going to be cut off. So I'm going to cut it out right away. So one more thing for the neck at the back, the width. The width is going to be the same, but the depth is not going to be the same. The depth is going to be 1 inch. The width is going to be 5 inches, just like the front pattern. So that's that. So we're going to go ahead and cut out. So you can see the major difference between the front and the back, the side seam, and the zip allowance, no bust line, no under bust. So I'll go ahead and trace out what we have here. So the beauty of this is the allowance has been added, everything has been added. So while drafting out on your fabric, you don't have to bother about adding an allowance. So I'm going to go ahead and label it. This is the side piece. This is the center piece. So this is what we have for the front piece. So guys, this is what we have on the front pattern, and then for the back pattern, this is what we have. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and share this video. Comment, ask your questions on the comment section, and I will attend to it as soon as possible. Thanks so much for watching. The back pattern, but enjoying exactly as you have it.